Diane Paul has been the quiet supporter of her husband, Dr. Paul, and his veterinary empire for years, staying out of the spotlight. But now, Dr. Paul has finally spoken out about his wife's health, and the truth has shocked and broken fans' hearts. Fans had been wondering for months about Diane's mysterious absence and declining health, but no one was ready for what Dr. Paul said. What really happened to Diane? And why was the truth kept from everyone for so long? Join us as we find out what really happened to Diane before they were famous and photographed. Jan and Diane Paul were building a life together based on hard work, care, and community. Diane and Jan's love story began by chance, when Jan, an exchange student from the Netherlands, stayed with Diane's family while he was in high school in 1961. It was a complete coincidence that two young people from very different backgrounds ended up living together. But fate has a plan, and their love for animals helped them grow together. Over the years, they became close and have been together for more than 50 years. In 1967, Diane and Jan said their vows in a heartfelt ceremony. Since they couldn't have biological children, they chose to adopt 3 kids, Kathy Charles, Diane Jr., and Diane. But their relationship was about more than just family, it was about purpose. In 1981, they opened Paul Veterinary Services, a small clinic in rural Michigan. Their practice quickly became a respected establishment, thanks to both Jan's hard work, veterinary knowledge, and Diane's organizational skills. They built a practice that became the center of their community, serving both farmers and pet owners. They weren't trying to be famous, they were just trying to help. But this quiet start would one day lead to a very public life, a life that started to take its toll on Diane in ways that no one saw coming. The unexpected path to fame. Little did they know that their shared vision and hard work would lead them to even bigger things. A new chance. In the early 2000s, a TV network wanted to show the unique and often difficult lives of rural veterinarians. After all, caring for animals in small town America was full of emotional highs and lows, and Jan and Diane Paul were the perfect choice to be the faces of this new reality show. It all started when a casting agent from Nat Geo Wild read an article about Jan's work as a veterinarian. They were impressed by his credentials and knew that he would be a good fit for the role. Besides Jan's engaging personality and impressive skill at handling everything from routine farm visits to high-stakes emergency animal surgeries, what really stood out to the producers was the relationship between him and Diane, who was just as dedicated to the business but rarely seen in public. Diane's quiet but strong presence went well with Jan's more outgoing and sometimes larger-than-life personality. The producers saw something rare, a dynamic, grounded couple who had built a life together. The way they supported each other and the way they clicked with each other was real. For the producers, this was the perfect mix of veterinary care, rural life, and family values. At first, Jan and Diane were hesitant. They had spent decades building a business on trust and professionalism, and the thought of letting cameras into their private lives was scary. But after a few talks, they realized that this chance could help them reach a lot more people. They wanted to show the world how much they loved animals and encourage others to become veterinarians. They also wanted to share their passion with the world by showing not only their professional skills, but also the heart and soul of what they did every day. They agreed, but with one condition: they had to stay true to who they were. The first season of The Incredible Dr. Paul aired in 2010, and viewers all over the country were hooked from the start. People loved how down-to-earth and approachable he was, but what really made the show stand out was his relationship with Diane. They loved each other deeply, had a history together, and were able to balance work, family, and personal life, which made them relatable to viewers. Diane's role in the business, while not always in the spotlight, was just as important to the success of the show, and viewers quickly saw her as the glue that held everything together. But that success, the spotlight, the pressure, Diane started to fade from view because of all the filming that had to be done all the time. The Paul show became an instant hit, drawing viewers in with both the emotional stories of animal care and the bond between Jan and Diane, which was clear in every episode. But being in the public eye started to hurt Diane in ways she hadn't expected. While Jan loved being in the spotlight and sharing his knowledge and passion with millions of viewers, maintaining a polished appearance in front of the camera, but behind the scenes, tensions and struggles grew until they were impossible to hide. What started as a chance to share their passion with the world also marked the start of Diane's gradual disappearance from it. Diane's hidden battles. While the cameras were rolling and the country fell in love with the amazing Dr. Paul, Diane Paul was the one who was really going through it. Jan was silently facing a reality that few saw or understood. The show brought her a lot of business, support, and a platform that she embraced wholeheartedly. But for Diane, it was a more complicated experience. She had never been interested in fame, and as the spotlight got brighter, she felt uneasy. At first, Diane told herself that her discomfort would pass, the cameras would come and go, and life would go back to normal. But the more the show did well, the more its effects were felt. She had to deal with demands in her personal life. They kept coming back season after season, year after year. Strangers started recognizing her at the grocery store and restaurants, and they would praise John and ask her about their marriage, their kids, and even how she did her job at the clinic. She always looks a little overwhelmed. A longtime patient of the clinic once said on an online fan forum, "I love watching their family, but I wonder if this show was really her choice." Fans and people in Diane's own community talked about how she felt about all the attention. "I ran into Diane at a fundraiser once," said a neighbor who had known the Poles for years. "She was polite, but I could tell she wasn't comfortable with all the attention. It's Jan's dream, not necessarily hers." Even though Diane tried to hide her private struggles, she didn't want to become famous. People noticed that she hesitated before speaking on camera, or let Jan take the lead in interviews. Some praised her humility and poise, while others thought she was just putting up with it to make her husband happy. She seems like the type of person who just goes along with things because she loves her family. One viewer wrote on a social media thread about the show, "I wonder if she ever gets tired of being Dr. Paul's wife instead of just being his wife." Diane was really tired. The show, which had started out as an exciting new chapter, had become a constant part of their lives. There was no off switch. Even when the cameras weren't rolling, she could feel their weight. Every time she walked into the clinic, she knew that a producer might ask her to film a quick interview or a reaction shot. Whenever she and Jan had a private moment, she wondered if it would somehow become part of the show's story. The pressure wasn't just on her. Diane had always been the kind of woman who fully supported her husband and took pride in their shared success. She had worked hard behind the scenes for years to help build their practice, and now that their hard work was being recognized on a national level, she felt bad that she hadn't embraced it like Jan had. Jan, on the other hand, was thrilled about the show's success. He loved talking to fans, sharing stories, and teaching people about veterinary medicine. But he also couldn't figure out why Diane wasn't embracing it. Diane didn't agree with him. "You don't have to do anything you don't want to," he told her as they sat in their living room one night, the flickering TV light making long shadows on the walls. "You can be involved as little or as much as you want." However, Diane knew it wasn't that easy. Even if she stopped filming, her life had already changed. Their clinic wasn't just a veterinary office, it was a set. Their home, which used to be their sanctuary, now felt like a public space. Her friends also noticed the change in her. "That's not the Diane I know. She's always been so open with me. But now, I don't know, I feel like there's a wall up," said a close family friend. Diane didn't mind the attention. She didn't mind the expectations. When she went to social events, people thought she'd be excited to talk about the show and her life as a reality TV star. But she didn't feel like a celebrity. She still saw herself as the same woman who had spent years raising children, running a household, and quietly managing the clinic's finances. While Jan took center stage, the fame didn't change who she was. It just made her harder to see. She had been reading web forums late at night at one point. Some people said she was the rock of the Paul family and Jan's success, while others asked if she was happy, if she secretly hated the show, or if she wished things had gone differently. One comment said she always looks tired, like she's holding everything together, but no one really sees it. Diane didn't like to dwell on bad things, but the comments made her wonder. Was that how people saw her? Was that how she saw herself? She was proud of what they had accomplished and thankful for their success. But there were nights when she sat alone in their quiet home, long after Jan had gone to bed, and wondered what life would have been like if they had turned down the cameras. Would she feel more at peace and like herself, or would she just find another way to feel lost as the show became more popular? Diane knew she had to make a choice. She could either play the role that everyone expected her to play, or she could refuse to play it. Fans didn't realize that Diane's absence from the screen wasn't due to an injury, but to an emotional toll that had been building for years. Diane had spent her life helping others, her family, the clinic, and the show, but behind the scenes, her quiet strength was wearing thin. Fame had never been her dream, and the constant pressure to perform, smile, and stay strong took a deeper toll than anyone realized. At that point, the emotional stress of feeling invisible and overwhelmed started to hurt her health. She kept going like she always did. But eventually she couldn't hide the cost. That's when fans noticed she wasn't just disappearing emotionally, but also physically. Soon, the questions started to get louder, and Dr. Paul finally broke his silence. Dr. Paul finally breaks his silence for months, and fans have been wondering about Diane. Paul's mysterious injury and road to recovery. Life. She wasn't in any new episodes or public events, and some people on social media thought the worst was she's seriously ill. Had there been a private family tragedy? Others thought there might be marital problems or a serious accident that the Paul family was trying to hide. During this time of uncertainty, Dr. Jan Paul stayed quiet. He is usually very open about his veterinary practice and family life, so his refusal to talk about the situation only led to more rumors. Fans were very curious about Diane's whereabouts on social media, but there were no updates or explanations, just a wall of silence that made her disappearance even stranger. Finally, in March 2024, Dr. Paul broke the silence. And the truth was even more heartbreaking than many had thought. In an emotional and surprisingly honest post on social media, Dr. Paul addressed the rumors and set the record straight. We're losing her. As expected, people were shocked when he confessed. But it was clear right away that this wasn't a joke. The tone of his post wasn't his usual confident and upbeat personality. Instead, it was heavy with the weight of months or even years of worry and heartache Diane had been going through. He couldn't even begin to describe it. They had kept it a secret for a long time, because they didn't want to scare anyone. But the truth was, Diane had been in constant pain. She had been hiding it from everyone, even close friends, for years, because it was the kind of pain that wears you down slowly. But it had finally reached a breaking point. The cause was a severe spinal condition that had grown over time. At first it seemed manageable stiffness and occasional pain, but by late 2023 she was in constant pain. It was painful to move, and filming was almost impossible. Dr. Paul said that decades of hard work had caused long-term stress and wear. Not all fans were sure. Some thought there might have been some people even came up with the crazy idea that Diane had been in a train accident. But the family wouldn't confirm or deny it. This lack of clarity only led to more questions. But it was clear that Diane had been suffering emotionally for years, and that they could no longer hide it. It was a battle that no one knew about. Was it an accident or something more? According to Dr. Paul, Diane's condition was caused by years of physical strain from working in a demanding environment for decades. But for some fans, the more questions than answers were raised about why things went so badly, and why the family chose to keep it a secret. Some online sources said that her injury might have been caused by a serious accident, like a fall, a car accident, or another traumatic event that the family chose not to talk about. Being in the public eye may have limited what they could share and face as a family. If they wanted to keep up a certain image, they may have hidden something terrible, like a farm injury. A very crazy theory that spread online was that Diane had been in a train accident, which Dr. Paul neither confirmed nor denied. Some thought that the word train wreck was being used figuratively, but others weren't so sure. Could Diane have been in a real accident that wasn't being talked about that caused her condition? Dr. Paul insisted that her injuries were caused by gradual wear and tear and a worsening spinal issue. His ambiguous language led to more speculation. Had Diane been in a private accident that they didn't want to talk about? Share whether there was an underlying condition that had gone undiagnosed for years. Whether it was gradual wear and tear, a hidden accident, or something else, one thing was clear. Diane had reached her limit. The pain was constant and unbearable, and it was no longer something that could be ignored or edited out. When news of Diane's condition came out, it shocked, speculated, and worried fans of Dr. Paul and beyond. Many viewers had noticed small changes in her behavior over the years. She was known for her slower movements, careful positioning in scenes, and the occasional winces she tried to hide. But few knew how much pain she was in. Longtime fans were devastated and worried when they found out. Support, prayers, and well wishes poured in from all over the world. Diane has always been the heart of the show. I can't believe she's been in that much pain for so long. She always carried herself with such grace, wrote one Twitter user. People who had been through chronic pain or spinal injuries could relate to Diane's problems. My husband had a spinal injury, and it's a nightmare to live with. I can't imagine trying to hide that level of pain on camera. She must be one of the strongest women out there, said one supporter. Others were more shocked that this information had been kept secret for so long. I don't know whether to feel sad or frustrated. This woman has been suffering for years, and no one said a word, said another. Did they mean to keep this from us? asked someone on Reddit. In a popular thread breaking down what Dr. Paul said sparked new speculation. Was it just normal wear and tear, or was someone trying to hide something? One fan wrote in an angry Facebook discussion, "I don't believe this is just wear and tear. She went from walking normally to barely moving in such a short amount of time. That sounds like an accident or something sudden, not just getting older." There were many ideas about what might have really happened to Diane. Quickly, some said she might have had a major farm injury, horse or cow had stepped on or knocked over, but that the family had. There were a lot of farm accidents that weren't reported, and one commenter said she might have been hurt years ago, but just ignored the pain, and now it's caught up with her. The train accident rumor also spread, and some people took it to new levels. Remember when Dr. Paul didn't deny that train accident? Someone on Twitter asked, what if that wasn't just a metaphor? What if something actually happened? Some people thought it was crazy, but others weren't so sure. It's weird that they're being so vague about it. If it was just arthritis or aging, why not say that outright? Wrote another fan on a forum thread about Diane's health. Besides the rumors, some people were also upset with the show itself. People who watched the show felt betrayed because they thought the producers had downplayed or edited out Diane's problems on purpose to keep the show's family-friendly image. If you go back and watch the last couple of seasons, you can see the signs she's in pain. But they barely acknowledge it, one viewer said. Some fans said, I love the polls, but it does feel like they were trying to hide this from us. Others defended Diane's family's right to privacy, saying that she had every reason to keep her health problems from the public. People are acting like they're entitled to every detail of her life, wrote a Facebook user. Maybe she just didn't want to be seen as weak. Maybe she didn't want to worry us. Either way, she doesn't owe us an explanation. Fans were all very emotional about Diane's health problems, whether they were upset, angry, or interested. They all agreed on one thing: Diane deserved peace, comfort, and respect. No matter how this happened, I just hope she gets the care she needs, wrote one viewer. Diane has given so much to the show, and to Dr. Paul's legacy. She deserves all the love in the world right now. As rumors and arguments raged on social media, the truth stayed the same. Diane Paul had been in pain for years without telling anyone, and now her secret was out. What happened next for her, and how much more the public would ever really know, remained to be seen. Surgery was a risky gamble for a desperate situation. By early 2024, Diane could no longer stand the pain and had to make a choice. Diane was quickly getting worse, so her only choice was spinal surgery, which doctors said was both high risk and not very likely to work. It wasn't an easy decision to have spinal fusion surgery, because it could have complications, a long recovery time, and there was no guarantee of a good outcome. Dr. Paul said in his statement that the choice had been agonizing. They had waited as long as they could and tried everything from physical therapy to medication to alternative treatments. But nothing was working anymore. She was in so much pain that there was no other choice. On March 5, 2024, Diane was wheeled into the operating room for one of the most complicated and nerve-wracking surgeries ever. Diane had the longest and most painful surgery of her life. During the surgery, multiple vertebrae were fused together to stabilize her spine and relieve pressure on the pinched nerves that had been hurting her. Even though the surgery was successful, Diane's battle was far from over. She had a long and difficult road to recovery. As Dr. Paul put it, Diane's recovery has been anything but easy. After surgery, she was put under strict medical supervision and couldn't move without help. The weeks that followed were filled with excruciating pain, emotional lows, and the frustration of losing her independence. For a woman who had spent her whole life caring for others, being the one who needed care was a cruel turn of events. Diane, who was known for being strong, had a hard time adjusting. She was the strongest person Dr. Paul knew, but the change had been the hardest thing she had ever had to deal with. And it wasn't just Diane who was having a hard time. Dr. Paul was also having a hard time with the emotional weight of the situation. Even though he was a veteran vet who had spent decades treating animals with precision and care, nothing had prepared him for how helpless he felt, watching his own wife suffer. He had spent his whole life fixing things, but this was different. This was personal. He felt helpless because he couldn't do anything to help. Will Diane fully recover? Right now, her prognosis is uncertain. While the surgery was necessary to regain some quality of life, and a full healing are not promised by all experts, Diane might always be in pain. That makes it hard for her to move around and do other things. Diane is focusing on small wins right now, like learning to walk without help, dealing with her pain, and getting stronger. Dr. Paul is still hopeful. even though there will be challenges ahead. Diane and he are both not giving up. What do you think about the effects of a public life? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.